Hey guys, welcome to Urban Loop Studio, and I'm going to share with you how to budget for your remodel project. So I'm going to try to keep this under 10 to 12 minutes because I know talking about money and budget isn't always fun, but it is a reality that we need to face. So in this class, I'm going to show you basically the mindset that you need to have, the basic components, how to do your research. I'm going to share with you some details, just kind of peel back the curtain so you can see exactly what's going on here. I'm going to share with you some averages of what renovations cost here in Dallas, Texas with the projects that we've worked on. And then I'm going to show you some real numbers from a real project. And then lastly, I'm going to show you how to fund it if you don't have an inheritance or don't have the option to save enough. So, with that being said, let's get right into it. So, in terms of the mindset that you need to have, I want you guys to think about this in terms of if you were to go buy a car. So, you have your basic cars with like the roll up window, and then you have your luxury cars. So, I want you to kind of think of home building and remodeling in the same light because everybody asks, how much does it cost? Well, it's more like, well, what kind of car do you want? And so, how does that translate into the built environment? So, when you're remodeling, you want to think about a good analogy that would translate is to think of it in terms of a hotel room. You have your $60 to $80 a night hotel rooms, and you can just imagine what those finishes look like, what that feels like compared to the nicer hotels that you've stayed at. You know, like they have nicer curtains, they have larger windows, they have better finishes. And so you just want to kind of help yourself understand like what are the expectations in terms of my budget. So I'm going to try to help you guys figure out, okay, well, how does a low end renovation compare to a mid range or a high range? So that's where the research comes in. And so we're based out of Dallas, right? So our numbers may not exactly translate and help articulate the reality of what the market could be in a different city. So I'm going to show you guys quickly how to just assess that on your own if you're not based out of Dallas. So Redfin and Zillow is a good place to start. So if you go to Zillow, then you can just kind of get an idea of, okay, how much do things cost? And if you want, you can just filter to houses only instead of all these other things. And then you can also say, I only want to see newer homes. So you can definitely change the dates over here. You're built, so you don't want to do anything too old, but you can tell that 1980s homes are going to be remodeled, more likely be remodeled compared to newer homes. So then you don't want to obviously put the current year. So right now it's 2022. So let's just put 1990 for now. So, and the reason why we're doing that is because we're trying to eliminate what new construction costs, but you can get an idea of how much things cost. So like here in Dallas, $350, and you just click on it, you can get an idea of what those finishes look like, right? So, and how this is relevant and how this translates is you want to get the price per square foot number. So if this is $350 and then it's $1940, you want to just take that price per square footage and multiply it by the reality of the square footage that you want to build. So this one says 180, right? And you can expect to get these kinds of finishes. If you want to do new construction, obviously, or like an addition, then you want to take the filters off for the years and well, not off, but change them to say 2017, 2020. Okay, so let's try this one. Okay, so if you're, and you don't have to do the math, some of these actually provide the price per square footage down here. So if you have a budget of 442, then this is most likely the finishes that you can afford. More larger panels of glass, larger panels of hardwood floor, nicer finishes on the walls. So depending on your style, your preference of luxury and what you can afford, this is a good way to gauge what you can afford. And Redfin is another website that you can use for a similar purpose. So just to get an idea of price per square footage and the finishes in your location, you can use Zillow and Redfin. So what are the details of how a remodel or new construction is priced? You want to look at three major numbers: the labor, the materials, and your design team's fees. So how do you come up with the labor? So just some basic information about how labor is organized. So in our industry, we have this thing called the 16 divisions, which is basically dissecting all the major components of a home so that when the floor plans are being read, we know that we're not forgetting any of the numbers. So we go through the floor plans, for example, and look at any areas where concrete is required, and we create either linear foot or try to basically quantify it. So if it's linear foot or area or square foot, so things that would be under concrete would be like foundation, anything that's made out of concrete. Some people want to have concrete floors. Some people like to have basements made, or a safe zone for tornadoes, or even a safe for your valuables. So they'll go through the floor plan and calculate all the quantities of concrete. Same thing with masonry. If you're having stone, limestone, or brick on the exterior of your house, with the floor plans, they'll calculate how much quantity is required and come up with a quantity. Same things with metal, so on and so forth. And so this is one of the ways that most contractors calculate the labor portion of that number. So they'll not only quantify it, but they'll also price it and include the cost to install it. So that's how the labor numbers work. And we recommend getting minimum 3 bids. And in Dallas, the market is pretty crazy, so contractors are super busy. We have a labor shortage, we have a housing shortage. So a lot of the people won't even get back to you because they're so busy, or your project might be too big or too small for them. So these days, I actually recommend getting more, up to at least 5 bids. Then we want to look at the materials. So sure, there's materials that are being quantified in by the contractor, but there are other materials that we group separately, which are all of the interior finishes. So an example of that would look like this. So we'll basically list out each room, like the kitchen, the master bath, and basically, let me backtrack a little bit. Materials would be things like the plumbing schedule. So we'll pick out like all the sinks, faucets, soap dispensers, all of the plumbing fixtures in each room. And then we'll also quantify all of the appliances that are needed in the house. Then we'll look at the finish schedule. So the finish schedule is where we look at what kind of floor material you'll need. Is it carpet, wood floor, tile? Then we'll even look at the baseboards, what kind of wall material is on the wall. Is it going to be painted chipboard or tile? Are there any cabinets on the wall? So these will go under finishes. Then the other kind of materials that we have are, I mentioned cabinets, but then we'll also have lighting. We'll select all the light fixtures. Then we have more detailed items like the cabinet hardware. What do the interior doors look like? Are there any windows or glass on the inside? Are there any molding? And so basically we'll go through and itemize all of the materials that are required to come up with the materials number. Then you'll have the design team fees. So most likely you'll need someone to come up with your floor plans and the design of the project. So you'll need to pay that person. Then you have your structural engineer that you'll need to pay for to calculate all the loads to make sure that your building stands up. Then you'll have your contractor fee. And then these are your basic major fees. Some other people go the extra length and hire an interior designer, a pool designer if they have a swimming pool in their backyard. Then you can also have a landscape designer to do all of your backyard stuff for your barbecues. And then some people also have an audio visual consultant to help you place your speaker system and any video security that you have. So this would be all of the expenses under your design team. So let's look at some of the averages for our projects. If you look at, we took a couple of projects 1, 2, and 3, and we just kind of broke it down on those basic components. So you can see that the cost of materials is the blue, and so it takes about 25% of your entire budget. And then you can see your labor cost, which is a majority chunk of your project, let's say between 25 and 75. So your labor cost is going to take up 50% of your budget. And you can see the similarities between projects 1, 2, and 3 and how they are very similar in how they lay out. The contractor fee is this mustard yellow color. And you can see change orders take up the green, which is about 1%, 2 to 2.4% on this project, and 1.2%. Change orders are basically any changes that the client chooses to make once construction started and the design decisions have been made. Then you have your contractor fee to facilitate the change orders. So that's, depending on the project, some clients know what they want and some clients are a little bit more indecisive, so the change orders will be heavy. So the more you know up front and the solid decisions you make with your design team before starting the construction will definitely minimize this green. Then you have your consultant costs, so that would be your structural engineer, it'll be your MEP or your pool consultant landscape. And depending on the project and the client, this number will change and vary based off of how much customization they want. The floor plan fee also varies based on the project, the scope, the level of detail, how much is being done. And then some clients choose to hire an entire interior designer. So, depending on the scope, again, it could be 7%, 8% of the project budget. And then finally, reimbursables. These are things, the expenses that the project incurs that are just charged back to the client. Things like floor plan blueprint sets that need to go to the city or to the contractor. So there's usually a set of drawings that are on the job site so that any subcontractor that's on site that is building anything always has a reference. So reimbursables would be like the drawings, if there's any travel fees or costs associated with it, and those would be outlined on the contract. So basically, you can see between projects 1, 2, and 3, majority of your costs will be the labor portion, which is, again, your 16 divisions and, just quantifying the materials based off of the floor plan, how much those things cost, and the labor. And then your cost of materials, which is usually half of the cost of the labor, are your things like appliances, lighting fixtures, tile, things like that. And then your mustard yellow is the fee for the contractor to manage all of the labor and coordinate that and get everything in place, ordering it, the logistics. Change orders are, of course, something similar, but it's outside of the original scope of the contract, things that clients decide that they want to add on later. Um, Consultant costs, again, are, like on this one project right here, the client decided to hire a structural engineer, a landscape designer. They decided to install a treadmill pool. And so, they decided to have blinds installed as well, custom drapes. And so that would be anything outside of what the scope would be that other people are experts in that we would need to hire on. They also did an audio visual, so this is project and client specific. And then, of course, there's the plan for the floor plan. So the floor plan is really, really important because that is the recipe and the map of how everything else goes down. So without the floor plan, there's no project. So this is kind of like, this is the first step. For a custom design home, a contractor or builder will not even talk to you if you don't have these. So this would be a very critical step. This is the map that shows what everything needs to be. Everything is based off of the floor plan. And the floor plan is also a collection of all the desires, the wants, and the needs of the client. So this becomes kind of like the Bible, the contract in which how everything goes down. Same thing with the interiors. So the basic difference between the floor plan and the interiors is that the floor plan is usually heavily based on the exterior items like the foundation, exterior walls, exterior doors and windows. And then, of course, the exterior materials like the brick, stucco, or limestone, whatever that goes on the outside. The interiors fee is usually all the things that need to be decided on the inside, like what is the cabinet design going to look like? What is the extent of the tile? Does it go all the way to the ceiling or just, a couple of feet off? So things like that. So moving down a little bit further, just a couple of sharing more averages of what projects in Dallas, specifically in our design studio, look like. Here's another visual, a pie chart visual of what it looks like across some of our last projects. You can see the cost of labor is anywhere between 40 to 50% of your entire budget. The cost of materials is usually half of that. And of course, with each project it varies. Then you have your reimbursables, which are like travel cost and the cost of printing the blueprints. The interior design fee is, on average across 3 of our last projects is 7.5%. Floor plans are 5.6. Your consultant cost is 0.5% of your entire budget. I'm going to skip down here. Your contractor fee can be 8%. These are also old numbers too. So, some contractors even charge 10%, 12%, 15%, depending on the quality of the contractor and the level of detail, craftsmanship, things like that. But just know that it's, big picture wise, this is a small portion of your entire project budget. And then, of course, the change orders are based off of how decisive or indecisive the client is. A lot of times clients don't really understand floor plans, and so then what they're trying to do is once, the construction starts coming together, then they realize, oh, well, this is what it looks like. And then they're like, oh, well, I wish I would have thought of doing XYZ differently. And then if they have the money, then they'll choose to make the changes. And that's what these change orders are. Usually on our projects, it's minimized just because we have the ability to provide 3D floor plans. And so the client can see and understand what's happening as opposed to just plain floor plans. A good example would be, this is a floor plan versus Let me see if we have any 3D in here. Let's see. 3D would be, you know, something like this. So clients can better understand 3D versus the floor plan here. So moving forward, let me show you an actual example for a project. So actually these were the floor plans that we submitted to each contractor, and it's so interesting because each one came back with a different number. Same set of floor plans, 3 set of different numbers. And so I'll show you their bids actually. So one of them, you know, this is, you know, this bid right here. You know, if you look at the total, let me minimize this a little bit, came out to $129,000. Okay. And then if you look at this other one, these guys, their total was $94,000. Basically, you can see like one set of floor plans, the same one went to different contractors, and you can see how you come up with different numbers. And detailed, the more detailed the bid is, the better it is, just because you can see, you know, did they follow this outline? What is the quantity? Can you go back to the floor plan and quantify it and double check it? Because usually when somebody provides a lump sum number, it's usually a contractor who is letting you know that he doesn't want to be questioned about the numbers, which is usually a sign of laziness, in terms of wanting to justify the numbers. It also is a sign that they're not good with numbers and accounting, which means your budget can be used in a sloppy way, which means you can potentially be taken advantage of and overpay. So one sign of a good contractor is always to know that they've broken it out in a very detailed fashion, you know, like these guys. You know, they're showing you the square footage. They're showing you that it's quantified by linear foot versus square foot. So, you know, and then over here they're even quantifying like one sink base and then telling you the price. So that's one example of floor plans, labor. And then for the materials, it's very similar to what I showed you on this project right here. Sorry, this one. Everything's quantified like that. And then for the design fees, we showed you a pretty good idea of what the fees could be on a project. And then also, you know, if you go with us, our pricing is on our website. So our latest pricing can always be found here under shop, and you can go down to services, and then you can see, you know, if you just want to get started, these are basic entry-level services, how much our floor plans cost, how much our interior design costs, and then we even offer decor, so you can just look for basic pricing there. And then let's talk about how you would want to fund this. So most people try to save, or they have an inheritance, or they just make a lot of money and they have, you know, a lot to spend. But what do you do when you want to get your renovation started, especially during quarantine, sooner than later? This is an amazing article that shows you a couple of ways you can fund your remodel. You can always get a home repair loan. You can also check to see if you can refinance your home. Interest rates are actually lower right now, so it might benefit you. You can do something called a HELOC, which is a home equity line of credit. You can do a home equity loan. I had mentioned just a short while ago you could do a cash out refinance. Interest rates are very low right now, so it makes sense to take advantage of it. Some people take advantage of 0% APR credit cards. If you know you're going to get a bonus at the end of the year and you have 12 or 18 months 0% APR, you can definitely put it on here. That would be a smart thing to do while also getting mileage and credit card points out of it. I only recommend doing this on 0% APR cards, and and then if you know you can pay it off. So, you can go to this website and they can even show you which cards offer that 0% APR for up to 21 months. So this one's actually really good. Moving along, government loans. We usually don't deal with these. But yeah, there's many different creative ways that you can fund your remodel. And we also, once you engage in a project, it's not like you have to pay for all of it up front. Usually if a project takes 12 months, it's never the case that you pay for everything up front. It's usually a retainer, and then, at least for the design portion, there's, some projects we pay 50% up front, 50% at the end. If it's a very detailed project that's actually going to take 12 months, then, we'll do 25% every quarter of the fee. And then, of course, once construction starts, you'll have another retainer to start the construction and have a similar format where you're either paying, 25% at a time or 33% at every third interval. So, as long as you have a financial plan that spans the length of the construction, you're good. So anyhow, that concludes the basic overview of a project on how to budget for your remodel. I hope you guys enjoyed this quick introduction on how to budget for your project. Please let me know any questions you have on the comments section. That way, when I create a version 2 of this video, I can address any and all of your questions and concern. And of course, email us at info@urbanloopstudio if you have any more questions. Thanks so much, and we look forward to working with you.